Hi guys, this is a short video on understanding context in the lead up to you comparing either two YouTube vlogs or videos or film trailers. As outlined on the task, it is asking for students to write 3 paragraphs in which they compare the ways in which context, purpose, and intended audience affects the language, stylistic features, and the form of two YouTube videos or film trailers. From the tips below, we can see that this is highlighted through requesting students use comparative language, whereby they compare the similarities and differences in regards to context, and we'll touch on audience, purpose, and language and form later on. Just looking at the little pro forma for note-taking, you can see that the questions that we are suggesting for you to ask are: how do the videos reflect their contexts? What outside factors influence these contexts or the content within the videos? Do they connect to current trends that are happening in 2020 or when the video was made? And how is this reflected in the chosen form and language and cinematic techniques? So remembering that language relates to the persuasive language, the dialogue, any verbal expression, but also how it is said. So let's focus in on that. You'll find this PowerPoint uploaded to OneNote without the recording, but I just thought I'd give the benefit of the doubt and go through it. Context. So, text and context. As we already know, and hopefully from last year, you would have learned that a text is any piece of written text. But it can also be any visual text, such as video, printed, multimodal. And in 2020, we are seeing more visual texts that are representative either through Snapchat, TikTok, but the prominent media text being YouTube and its publications. Context is the background to something. So we can see the con and then the text, but it's more specifically the circumstances surrounding something, both past, present, and future, and how they've informed the text. If we need to break it down, we can look at it from 3 different perspectives, such as historical, social, and cultural. And what you'll need to do is, as you analyze your chosen videos or film trailers, to be aware of either the historical, social, and cultural context that has helped shape them and informed how the audience might react and interact with the video. If we look at historical context, we can use the quote that it is the details that surround an occurrence. In more technical terms, its historical context refers to the social, religious, economic, and political conditions that existed during a certain time and place. This simply relates to the time, place, the economics, and the politics within the country or place in which it is published or targeted. Translation, it's all the details of the time and place, the situations, and what enables us to interpret and analyze works or events of the past or even future, rather than merely judge them by the contemporary modern standards. So we would need to take into account why, if we were to look at a YouTube video from 10 years ago, why certain techniques or even social instances are not being referenced, because they either haven't existed yet or they're yet to be implemented. An example of historical, to be more specific, is that if we were to read this line, "Sally hid her hands behind her back and crossed her fingers before she answered," we would simply take that as a description of a young girl, as it says, holding her hands behind her back and crossing her fingers. However, upon learning the historical context that this has come from an excerpt from a court document in Salem, Massachusetts, during 1692, during the famed Salem witch trials, we are able to understand that this reflects the religious fervor that was extreme at that time, or the hysteria, where villagers were nearly obsessed with the devil and witchcraft and believed that, unfortunately, as noted throughout history, women were attacked and in this instance were believed to have been witches if they were to tell a lie. So without knowing that context, we would just say an innocent action of a young girl, but now we understand and learn further of the context that this is actually a description of the court case where moments later she was found guilty and hung because it was believed that she was a witch and sent to the gallows. Here's a nice little historical context that actually relates to the same idea, but is using both the context from that time, but also the modern Me Too movement, whereby on the left of this comic strip, the 2-panel comic strip, we could easily note the difference of color and variation, but we have once again a male patriarchal figure saying if she dies, she's innocent, if she survives, she's a witch, which is very much that double standard of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But it uses the historical context of the justification, that they would rather see women die innocent if they drowned, but if they were to survive, they were a witch, which would then also lead to their death through various other methods. We then have on the right, once again, the woman who is holding a Me Too movement and endorsing that movement, being criticized by 2 men who say if she seems okay, nothing happened. If she claims it was an assault, she's just seeking attention. And we can see that the same context is being used, but based upon the historical context of the witch trials. Social context is slightly different, as noted by the title, but social context or milieu refers to the physical and social setting in which people live or in which something is developed or takes place. It includes the culture, education of the people who are watching it or creating it, but also the institutions which are referenced or interacted with. So, in short, we need to be mindful of the wealth and power relations, but also the artistry that is prominent during that time. That also relates to the community, race, and relations. This one's really easy to understand if you just simply categorize it as what cultural influences are influencing the creator of the video, what education of theirs or that is referenced during the video, how rich they are, or whether or not we can understand that they may be doing it for wealth or financial gain, which also relates to their power and their specific interests. An example might be the following. So from Charlotte Bronte's famous Jane Eyre, we know that it was set in the same social context in which she lived. So Charlotte Bronte wrote Jane Eyre to reflect her time and own individual upbringing. We have a number of authors or creators of novels and films creating period pieces which they're trying to delve back into the social context of that time. But for Charlotte Bronte, the creator, it was a self-reflection of how she felt as a woman of that time. So we can see that it was one in which women were seen as the lesser sex. There was a great divide between the wealthy and the lower class, and strict class boundaries were enforced, and this is explored through a character setting and story. Without knowing the social context that Charlotte Bronte was brought up in the time in which Jane Eyre is set, we would just simply understand it as a story about a young orphan girl and her struggles. But with the context knowing that it was the time in which she lived and existed, we know it's a story which reflects her own views on the importance of social inclusion and the championing of the strength of women. In terms of YouTube videos or vloggers, your video may directly address something of the social time that relates to culture, education, wealth, power, and interest. It may be a simple discussion on the current education system in South Australia. It might be about the reflection of hip-hop culture if it's a music review. So you would need to consider that. Cultural context, as noted by the cheeky little picture of Ronald McDonald, Yoshi, and a number of other, people paying homage to them, or saintage, is the ideology and traditions and values of that time that shapes an individual's belief. Translation, it's about thinking about the values that surround the author of the text and those that read or watch it. So this specifically relates to religion, gender roles, attitudes towards sex and marriage, social status, job opportunities, immigration, authority figures, and stereotypes. Cultural context also relates to, in short, fashion, music, slang, terminology, but also, what is popular at the current point in time. A great example of this is how we might consider how a person who is against immigration would respond to Donald Trump's address regarding building walls, or because it's socially happening now and hopefully will be resolved, but it's highly unlikely, we could think about climate change and saving the environment. We would not, if YouTube was around in the 1960s or 70s, see so many posts about climate change and the major concern that we're looking at over the next 30 to 40 years. Just a reminder that when you go to analyze your YouTube videos or potential film trailers, you do have a list of questions that relate to the definition of what context means, but also that may help prompt you to ask questions that aren't directly answered through the video. This relates to about whether the video is produced because it's Christmas time, so does it have a Christmas theme? Is it a video that connects with a current trend or celebrity scandal if it's a vlog about I guess a scandal that has happened, or even in the celebrity who is vlogging's own life? Okay, and you'll be asked to look at them in deeper depth by yourself. But here's a few. So if we think about it, if I was to release this very video as a vlog, I don't know how many likes or subscribes it would get, but we could ask, well, what might I call it? So Mr. Panchos or Year 12 OneNote. What are the general values and beliefs of the channel? So I would be promoting that I want students to watch this because I want them to be successful, but also independent learners, and kind of give new initiatives in terms of my teaching practice. Does the video reflect any current events? Not necessarily, but I am being mindful to record this because we lose a lesson to the public holiday or potential public holiday, but as I am very much aware, a sports day. Does the video reflect or connect with a current trend or celebrity scandal? Thankfully, there are no scandals happening in the English office, maybe apart from some of us staying a bit back later than expected. But it is very much in line with SAITA, so that's the South Australian English Teachers Association, okay, whereby I might actually then use this model of instruction or vlogging as a way to suggest how I'm helping students learn. SACE feedback, but as we know, Mr. Lecornu and Learner Voice, the idea of flipping the classroom. But also, it reflects the paperless trend because this is a video, it's not written on paper. Does the video reflect or connect with a current social issue? Well, I'd like to think that by not printing so much, which I've already done at the start of this year, I am helping reduce paper cost. But hopefully it reflects the current trend of me being up to date with technology as a teacher. We have some further questions that could be asked of why would the intended audience be connected with the issue or trend? Well, in all honesty, the only context surrounding this is that if you have the aspiration to do well, you want to know how to achieve an A, but also you may prefer student-centered learning where you are watching this video and not necessarily interacting in class. Does the video assume any prior knowledge? Well, as I'll be publishing this up on YouTube, you'll need to know how to access YouTube. You would understand that in a way I'm vlogging about this information, I'm instructing you to do it yourself, and that you are very much aware of the other bits of information surrounding this being a comparative essay. It will be sent to SACE and the performance standards that you will need to use. What is the intended knowledge that the audience have? Well, you've completed at least 1 year of SACE, you know how to use YouTube, and at the least I would hope that you would find this entertaining or at least a little bit more beneficial than me repeating this in class. Does the video try to include a particular group to add appeal to the desired audience? Not necessarily, because no one else apart from my students or Ms. Zilm's students are going to be interested in this video because you are the target audience, because you are looking to complete the text or assignment. Usually I would write this up and live live stream it, which is another element of YouTube, so that's good to note. But if I was to write a paragraph about this very video without comparing it to another, which is still achievable, but you are needing to compare, I'm already going to ask the questions already proposed, and I might or have written something exactly like this. Mr. Panchos's video, Context, is created in a culture of online learning. It is an example of the current trend to flip the classroom to allow students to both access material whenever they like and also revisit key learning moments to help them achieve their best in their SACE assignments. The Seaview High School Year 12 students, their parents and the school are aspirational and appreciate the extra help a flipped video provides in achieving higher grades for students. Furthermore, the video reflects the new paperless teaching methodologies adopted when Seaview adopted a one-to-one BYO laptop policy, enabling all students to have the technology to access materials online. The amateur nature of the video, which I'm very much aware of, such as the use of the dated PowerPoint program, is indicative of the speed with which technology develops. While the teachers are keen to utilize the current trends in the delivery of their content, they do not always have the skills or equipment to be completely on trend with their delivery. One example, breaking away from the script, which some YouTube video or vlogs often tend to do, which many of them are very much scripted, but you can tell when they're kind of live in the moment, is I've purposely chosen not to show my face. Although there is a suggestion behind showing your face creates a further personal connection with the viewer, but at this point in time, I've decided not to for my own personal reasons. I'm also very much aware that the editing and I guess use of other add-ins such as sound, music, or even intertitles may have helped support this video. However, this can be quite endearing and earns the respect of students who see the teachers are doing their best to cater to their learning needs. So you may not agree with this video. Many of you may have already given up and reached the 10-minute mark and said no. But hopefully this is conveying my general intent to help teach you through a different form. Despite the clunky program, his use of slang, or such as if I was to use terms such as cooked and abbreviation sup if I was to greet you, are similar to the language trends in the YouTube videos being studied in class, giving some measure of credibility that he knows what he is talking about. If I was to say film this at home, which you will be none the wiser whether or not I have, but likewise the homely setting of Mr. Panchos's kitchen dining area room reflects both the flexible but sometimes additional hours employed by teachers and the personal nature of YouTube videos. His unbuttoned shirt further reinforces the after hours content. Furthermore, the setting shows his audience that he does work for them at home, hopefully inspiring them to also put in the hard work as well. Now, although you cannot see me, that is the instance here. However, without actually filming myself, like my suggestion before, you can not be aware of that. Knowing all this, I would say that this video within itself is very meta, which you would see some vloggers do, where they're somewhat commenting on the creative work of YouTube itself, which you're more than welcome to do. Okay, and that's it for context. So once again, have a look at the questions that are available to you, remembering that you do not have to answer all of them, but in short, context is understanding any background information relating to either the film trailer, vlogger, or video that is published and how it may inform your decisions or interpretation of that video. Thank you.